And tonight on the Daily Wrap, who's under the most pressure tonight? Rick Unger? No, we're going to preview the third GOP debate with our own Steve Malzberg. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio under fire for his lack of work in the Senate, and Hillary Clinton at odds with some of her biggest supporters. You won't believe why. Finally, big news on that police officer that dragged a defiant student out of a classroom on the internet to share. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, along with my co-host Rick Unger, the bearer of big news, apparently.
Yeah, when we have breaking news, it's actually breaking news. The House of Representatives has voted to approve the 2-year budget agreement, which means that with the Senate, pretty much an easy call. We won't have to deal with budget ceiling fights for at least until March of '97, right?
2017.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
You're back in time.
2017.
And the owner of a DeLorean, to his right. He is the assistant online editor for Commentary Magazine. Noah Rothman is back, and all smiles as usual. And finally, he's an editor for the Wisdom Daily and a Washington Post contributor. Rabbi Brad Hirschfield just won't leave. All right, let's get right to the Daily Download. And tonight marks the third of 7 GOP presidential debates, this time at the University of Colorado, and it's hosted by CNBC. Donald Trump has slipped a couple of points in the polls, but overall still is firmly in the lead in most, and is already managing expectations around tonight's big event, telling Politico and his followers on the Twitter he doesn't expect the debate to be fair. To get a preview of said debate, the host of Newsmax TV's The Steve Malzberg Show, and will be anchoring tonight's post-debate coverage with Sarah Palin, Dick Morris, John Zogby, and Rick, obviously, Unger, and others. This is going to be huge. Steve Malzberg joins us from the newsroom in the middle of his preparation to give us a preview. Stevie, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yeah, I'm very excited about the post-debate show exclusively on Newsmax, as you mentioned, 10 p.m. Eastern with Rick and Sarah Palin and Dick Morris, and it's going to be a very unique event, so everybody tune in, tell your friends. But I think that I think the media is making a lot, and they're reporting it like this, and I'm glad you didn't, Joe. Donald Trump no longer the front runner in the national polls. No, I've seen one poll. Let's see the other 4 or 5, and then we'll say he's no longer the front runner. It doesn't mean because the latest poll shows he's not, that he's not. But I think in tonight's debate, I really hope, although I like excitement, I like fireworks, it makes for better TV for them and for us after the fact, I would like to see economic issues discussed. I would like to see plans put forward. I hope we don't get to the name calling, which was incited by CNN. Oh, did you hear what he said about you? How do you respond to that? So I think we're going to get a more serious approach from the moderators tonight, and I think we're going to get a lot more information from where the candidates stand on the very important issue of economics.
Yeah, I just wonder if, and I agree with you completely, I think we as a media, we judge these debates on zingers, and we talk about who had the best punch or counterpunch afterwards, and we forget about, boy, what were the policy ideas, right? But Trump is or at least he says he's a counterpuncher, and Ben Carson isn't a puncher at all. Do you think, just for the sake of conversation, that Trump will go after somebody like a Ben Carson who is so likable and usually doesn't take the bait?
He'll try. I think he'll try, especially because Carson is leading him in that one national poll, and in Texas they're neck and neck, and in Iowa he's trailing him in 3 polls. So yeah, he's gonna take an opportunity to do something. But John Kasich yesterday, he went in and he came out to supporters and said, "You got to be kidding me with these people I'm running with. One doesn't want Medicaid, Medicare anymore. He wants to end it," which is not true. Carson told at least 2 news shows on Sunday that is a mischaracterization. He never said that. You also have Jeb Bush saying, hey, if you want this kind of divisiveness or whatever, vote for Trump. So I think you might find fireworks and barbs coming from normally unexpected characters like Kasich and like Bush, who basically are in the fight of their lives because they're not doing well.
Hey, Steve, it's Rick. First, I got to point out, that has got to be the first time that my name came right next to Sarah Palin's name in a sentence. That's never happened before. I do want to ask you this. I was a little bit befuddled by Trump's Twitter that he sent out about how he was sure that the debate would be unfair. What's that all about? Is he just lowering expectations, or why would he say such a thing?
I think he's trying to intimidate the moderators, the question askers, that, you know, they make sure he's treated. Oh, he already said that we're not going to be fair to him. Maybe, like, you know, we got to bend over backwards. Remember what happened with Anderson Cooper, although Hillary or the other candidates never brought it up, but media really got on Anderson Cooper the day of the debate leading up to it, that he was on the Clinton Foundation, although he never took money, etc. And I thought he bent over backwards in many respects to make sure he was, quote-unquote, fair. So, you know, Trump is a genius when it comes to strategy and playing the media. I think he's just trying to put in their heads, hey, I'm watching you. I said you'd be unfair. And maybe he'll get an advantage.
Steve, it's Brad. You know, to that point that he's a strategic genius, does he run the risk, Trump that is, of overplaying this victim card, right? Everyone who treats him other than he expects to be is unfair. At some point, when does he cross the line from projecting the strength he's so proud of to ending up playing himself as a victim and losing a big chunk of that support?
Well, he doesn't cry about it. He fires back. If he's treated unfairly, you know, or attacked, he fires back. Unlike Hillary, who goes around saying, "Oh, Bernie Sanders said I shout, you know, because I'm a woman," and blah blah blah. I mean, it's he doesn't do that really, and if he does, he follows it up with an attack right back. So I don't think people look at him and as a whiner, as he admitted that he was at one point. Look, I think Ben Carson's rise in the polls, and I love Ben Carson personally, and I think he'd make a fine candidate. I think his rise in the polls is due directly to the fact that he has extended media exposure all of a sudden because of his book tour. There were stories that, oh, he's discontinuing his campaign to run his media book tour. That's nonsense. We had him on for a half an hour, and we plugged the book, talked a little bit about the book, but then talked about politics and the race. So he's gotten, and everything he says, the mainstream media jumps on. Oh, this is the worst thing. He's an idiot. How could he say that? What does he mean that? And that infuriates the conservative base. So I think that's one reason why he has risen at this time.
Hey, Steve, final question, and we'll let you get back to that tremendous Chinese food that you just ordered and I saw delivered into the newsroom. It smells great anyway. You know what? One name we really haven't mentioned and I haven't really spoken about in weeks on this show is Carly Fiorina, who had that huge bump after the second debate. She won the undercard in the first. She jumped 14 points in some polls, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, she dipped right back down to where she was. What the heck happened to Carly Fiorina, and will we hear from her again tonight, because she does great in these situations?
She might do great tonight, but if she doesn't follow it up with media appearances, she might as well drop out. I think she was intimidated by the stories that came out afterwards. She went and said about the Planned Parenthood video, and she referred to something that might have been a little off base. In other words, she maybe thought it was a real baby in that from the Planned Parenthood, but it turned out to be kind of file footage. If she let that intimidate her from going on and being asked about it and then furthering her campaign, I mean, where has she been since that debate? Nowhere. So she's done it to herself. And if that continues, she might as well do us all a favor and just get out of the race. Okay, well, we know where you're going to be tonight, Mr. Malzberg, and that is anchoring this debate coverage tonight, which is going to be tremendous. Sarah Palin, John Zogby, Rick Unger, Dick Morris, all-star lineup. I'm glad you separated the names this time. Rick slipped me a note. Separate Palin and me.
Palin and Unger.
He'll be flirting as usual, I'm sure. So, anyway, we appreciate you joining us, Steve. Thanks so much. Guys. Thank you. Okay. And Jeb Bush, who was sitting at the bottom of the polls, at least not where he used to be anyway, told Fox News he's ready for Trump tonight and that there could be some opportunities to take him down.
There could be opportunities to do it if he talks about protectionism, if he talks about a pessimistic worldview, which I don't share. I believe that Republicans and conservatives win when we have a hopeful, optimistic message, a more Reagan-esque message. I'll take it to him for sure.
All right, so is this Jeb Bush's, I can't believe I'd be saying this after the third GOP debate, but is this kind of his last stand?
You know what? We haven't seen him bring it yet. He better bring it tonight, because he is definitely on the desperation list.
No, is that in his DNA to be confrontational, to get down in the mud with Trump and slug it out?
No, not really. We've seen a real frustration from him about where he is in this race. If he projects that, it's going to translate as petulance.
Big night or small night for Jeb Bush?
I think it'll be a small night for him. I think that's who he is, I think.
A lot of horses on that stage, hard to stand out. So who are you pulling for in tonight's debate? Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and let your voice be heard. Also, are you interested in being on the Daily Wrap? Well, you can go to newsmaxtv.com/talkback for more information. Stay tuned. More Daily Wrap in a moment.